Hey guys, today we're going to make a broccoli cauliflower cheese soup or broccoli cheese soup or cauliflower cheese soup or whatever combination you like. I like both vegetables and I'm going to use both. I'm also going to make this keto friendly by using xanthan gum. If you don't care about yours being keto friendly, you can follow along and you can get the same result by using a half a cup of flour and butter. So don't be turned off if you don't care about this being keto friendly. So let's do this both ways. I have my ingredients laid out. I'm going to turn around on my cutting board and walk you through the amount and the preparations, and then I will set mine up and come back and we'll put it all in the pot together. This soup should be able to be put together and prepared and put in the pot and ready to serve in about 30 minutes. It also sits well on simmer, or you can turn it off and serve it later in the evening. I also make a good amount because it freezes well and it's perfect to reheat in the microwave. David takes it to lunch, and sometimes we have dinner with this one pot of soup I'll make. Sometimes it makes 2 or 3 dinners. So I'm going to show you the ingredients so that you can see what you're going to need. I'll walk you through the prep that I'm going to do, and then we'll come back and make soup together. So let's take a look over here at my cutting board. All right, you're going to want a half a cup of butter. And if you're going to do this non-keto, you want to have a half a cup of flour. If you're going to do it keto, you're going to need kind of a different ingredient called xanthan gum, and we'll talk about that more while I'm cooking with it. You can find it in your grocery store aisle. That's how it's spelled. That's my own container, but it's xanthan gum. All right, you're also going to need 3 cups of chicken broth, whichever kind you like. I use this chicken stock base. You're going to want 3 cups of half and half, 1.5 cups of finely chopped carrots. I just take this 12-ounce bag and put it in my food processor and chop it up, and it works great. 5 cups of mixed vegetables. I'm going to use a combination of cauliflower and broccoli. Fresh or frozen is great. It doesn't make a difference, except this is less prep for me. And then you're going to do salt and pepper to taste. I recommend about 1.5 teaspoons of salt and 2 teaspoons of pepper to start, and then taste from there. You're going to need a teaspoon of smoked paprika, a teaspoon of dry mustard, 2 light pinches of cayenne. It does not make it spicy. It just gives it a really neat, just a peppery flavor. It's delicious. And then you're going to want a pound of cheddar cheese. I have sharp, but you can use medium, whatever you like. So I'm going to take a break here while I shred this cheddar cheese, and I'm going to chop this onion, and I'm going to chop this carrot up so that everything is ready to just go in the pot. And then I'm going to pre-measure my liquids so you don't have to wait for me. And we should be able to get this soup ready for dinner in under 30 minutes. I'll be right back. I started on my soup. I have a half a cup of butter and a whole yellow onion that I chopped up, and I'm just sauteing that a little bit to where the onion is nearly translucent. And now I'm going to add my 2 teaspoons of garlic. I'm making this keto friendly. If you're going to make yours non-keto friendly, you have to follow some different directions. You're going to take, if you're doing this non-keto friendly, you're going to take 4 tablespoons of butter and your onion, and you're going to saute that. Once it's translucent, you're going to add your 2 teaspoons of garlic, and you're going to take that mixture and you're going to set that aside. You're going to have to add that back later. The step that I'm not going to do that you need to do is you're going to take a half a cup of butter, and you're going to take a half a cup of flour, and you're going to blend that together and simmer it until it becomes a light golden brown roux. And then you're going to pick up from that point. So if you're going to do this non-keto, you want to set your garlic onion mixture aside once it's translucent, and you want to make your half cup flour, half cup flour and butter roux, and that way we'll be at the same stage. Now, I like to add my carrots to my translucent onions and garlic and let those soak in the butter a little bit, and I like to saute them. I just think that they taste better. If you want to do that for your non-keto friendly, you can add your carrots before you set your garlic and onions aside, and they'll just be a little bit sauteed ahead of time, and that just that's fine. If you don't want to and you just want to throw your carrots in raw, you can. I use my food processor, and I over-chopped my carrots because I went in my pantry and it was dark in there, and I was going in there to hide from Amelia because she was sleeping, trying to avoid noise, and I hit the high button instead of the low. So my carrots are chopped a little smaller than I would normally want them. Yours should be a little chunkier, but either way they're going to taste the same. So I'm just sauteing this down a little bit. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes. I'm going to turn the camera off for the sake of time, and I'll come back when I'm ready for the next step. I'm back, and I set my onions, carrots, and garlic butter mixture aside. I have my pot. You don't have to clean it out. But you're going to add your liquids at this point and get them mixed together. If you're doing non-keto friendly, you should have roux in the pot, nice and golden brown, before you start this step. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add liquid. So bear with me just a second. You're going to do 3 cups of chicken broth. And then I have to add 3 cups of half and half to that. And this is your liquid mixture. I'm measuring this out. Bear with me here just a second. Can you grab one of those small half and halves out of the fridge, please? I've got this on medium heat, and I want this chicken stock to come up to a boil. And actually, I'm looking at this, and I can tell you right now I'm not going to be able to use this pot, so I'll be right back. All right, we're back in action. I just needed a bigger pot. So you can see this is going to make a lot of soup. Do not be afraid to cut this in half. I'm a cook and freeze person, so I always cook big. This recipe is for cooking big, and you can decide how you want to go. So I put 3 cups of chicken stock, and I'm doing 3 cups of half and half. And you just want that to come up to a boil, or a slow boil. And I'm going to go ahead and add my seasonings now. So I pre-measured my salt, pepper, my smoked paprika, my ground mustard, my cayenne, and I think that's everything. But I gave you the list of ingredients. That was all pre-measured. So I'm going to mix that in there. And then I also have my xanthan gum set aside, which I'm going to add as my thickening agent, but not until the heat starts to come up. Otherwise, this is going to clump up on me. So while this comes up to a boil, I will be right back, keeping in mind that we only have a few more ingredients to add, which is our frozen vegetables. We have to add our sauteed vegetables back, and then the cheese and our xanthan gum, and this will all thicken up together, and you can serve your dinner. Be right back. I'm waiting for my liquid to start bubbling, and then I'm going to add my sauteed vegetables, and then I'm going to add the broccoli and carrots. And once all of that is mixed, I will add my cheddar cheese as I mix it in. If you made a roux base, make sure that you have a whisk and you're standing here just occasionally stirring your liquids into your roux, otherwise it'll get clumpy and it'll sit in the bottom and your soup won't thicken properly. This, when you're doing it keto style, is going to look very thin, and you're going to be wondering, and it doesn't thicken up the way you want it to until right at the very end after you add that xanthan gum. So don't worry if it seems really runny and watery, because it is. All right, I'm going to let this boil, and I'll be back when we're actually going to do something exciting. Be right back. Are you helping me with your baby rolling pin? Amelia's having fried rice from the other night. She approves. Okay, the soup is almost boiling here, so I'm getting ready to add my carrot mixture in, and I just have it set to the side, so hopefully I can dump this without burning the shit out of myself. I'm good at that. Do that a lot. Okay, so I just dumped the carrots, onions, garlic, and butter mixture in. If you are doing non-keto, just make sure that you use your whisk to make sure that and you're going to have a much thicker liquid. Add your sauteed vegetables first, and then I'm going to add my broccoli and cauliflower, and I should have cut it open. Be right back. All right, so I have a 1-pound bag of frozen broccoli, organic. You can use any broccoli that you want. Don't worry about it being big and chunky, because once this cooks down, it actually ends up being in small pieces. So I kind of think the chunkier the better, so that you actually get some substance to your bites. I'm going to add also a pound of frozen cauliflower. If you don't want one or the other, you can do just cauliflower, just broccoli, mix it however you want. So I'm going to just kind of take a spoon and mix these in. And then I have a whole pound of cheese, and I get lazy. I use my Ninja food processor when I don't grate cheese, because I just don't want to if it's just going to get mixed in. So I just pureed it down to cheese crumbles, and it actually helps it melt better in this soup. So my temperature dropped when I added all those cold vegetables. I want to make sure that there's some good bubbling, because you're going to slowly drop your cheese in so that it melts into this cream. And then once all of your cheese is well blended, we're going to add that xanthan gum to finish the texture of the soup off, to thicken it up for you perfectly. So I'm going to let this come to a boil, and we'll be back to add the cheese. All right, we're starting to see a little bubbly action. You can kind of see everything starting to move. So I've got this actually up pretty high because I have so much soup in here, but I do not want to burn my cheese. So once I get a good boil, I'm going to drop the temperature a little bit. If you have a gas stove, as you know, it's easier to regulate. Electric sucks donkey balls, but it's what I got. So if you have an electric stove, just make sure this is cheese and cream, and it will burn easily. So don't get carried away with the heat if you get impatient and in a hurry like I do. I have it on high, but I'm just waiting for a good bubble. Okay, so this is hot enough. I know everything's in there is at least gonna melt cheese temperature. So I'm just gonna start dropping cheese in by the handful, and I wanna sprinkle it in. If you start dropping too big of chunks of cheese, I've noticed it doesn't melt as evenly, and I'm burning cheese onto my burner. God damn it. Okay. So it doesn't melt as evenly. So I always do a couple of handfuls, and then I just mix it in. And as you can see, there's so many good yummy vegetables in there. Carrots, broccoli, and cauliflower, and this is a really good way to get kids to eat vegetables. I also make a really good marinara sauce that is all veggies, and it doesn't matter, kids, adults, they eat it, and they don't even know how many vegetables are in it. So I think I'm going to do that one for you. I like to cook a lot of things that hide vegetables. I think it helps feed everybody. So I did most of that cheese. I'm just gonna, it looks like it's melted in there, so I'm just gonna finish off what I have, dropping it in. If you used a roux at this point, your soup is almost done. You just want to let your heat work that cheese into your thickened cream, and let those vegetables cook all the way through. And so you can put a lid on it, turn your pot down to simmer. If you're with me and you're going keto, you want to make sure that you mix that cheese in well. And then I measured out about 2 teaspoons of xanthan gum. Xanthan gum, a little bit, goes a very long way. So I'm only going to take about half of that. I'm going to sprinkle it on the top. And then I'm going to take my whisk and I'm going to work it in. I'm going to reduce my heat to medium-low and put a lid on. I'm going to check on it in about 2 minutes, and I'm going to see how effective that xanthan gum was. It may be thick enough, and it may need the other teaspoon. So we're going to play it by ear. So I'm going to put a lid on this, simmer, let it sit for about 2 minutes, and I'll be right back. I've let that xanthan gum sit in with the lid on, and it's still not thick enough for me. So I'm going to add that other teaspoon, and then I'm going to let it simmer with the lid off. It does need to be able to let some of that steam out, otherwise it may get too thick and pasty for you. So right now we're going to leave it at 2 teaspoons, and if I need more, great, and if I don't, that's fine too. I'm going to come back and we'll see what the consistency is. This soup has got a good bubble on it now, and I've got 2 teaspoons of xanthan gum. If you did the original style with roux, no keto, just keep letting yours simmer and stir it, and as soon as your veggies are cooked all the way through, you can serve it. You can serve it with breadsticks. That's my favorite. For my keto friends, stick with me. This is almost thick enough. Xanthan gum is something I use sparingly because too much can be awful. So I'm just going to do 1 more teaspoon, spread it out. Don't lose patience, stir it in, keep your lid off and your heat just at a point where you've got a good simmer. This will work magic, and you'll start to notice that it'll get thicker towards the bottom. So right now we're on 3 teaspoons, and I'm giving it maybe like 3 to 4 minutes in between. So you're not talking about a lot of time here. It's just making sure that this is gonna be the right consistency for you. I'm playing a little bit with texture here, so I want my soup a little creamier. I'm looking like it looks more brothy to me, so I'm gonna not be shy about adding some more half and half cream and just adding to that. And the xanthan gum is still mixing in here. It's still adding a little more thickness. I am going to go ahead and put another teaspoon in, and I'm just going to keep working this. And just every couple minutes, I'm just going to stir it and check for thickness, and I'm going to add a teaspoon at a time. Once you think it starts getting close to thick enough, put your lid on and let it simmer for about 60 seconds. If you pull the lid off and run your spoon through it and everything is thick enough, you know it's done. If it still feels brothy to you or seems brothy to you, you can thicken that back up. Remember, you're using this in place of flour and butter, which is the traditional roux. So you're trying to get that consistency. Also, I forgot to mention that when you serve this, I love to take fresh cheddar cheese and grate it and serve it on top and melt it right in. It just adds a little extra kick to it. So I'm gonna just keep stirring this and watching it and adding a teaspoon of xanthan gum at a time, and I'll let you know how it goes. If your soup looks more brothy than creamy and you want to add some half and half in, don't be shy. We're back and we have soup. So I actually had to make some adjustments. I added another cup of cheddar cheese to mine, and I added 2 more teaspoons of xanthan gum. So when you make yours, and I'll put a note in the early part of the recipe so I don't fuck you all up, I would do 3 cups of half and half to 1.5 cups of chicken broth, and that way you should get a creamy enough texture that you shouldn't have to add more cheese and cream back. That seems to be fixing the problem. Also, I'm actually not going to eat mine for a little while longer, at least another 2 to 3 hours, and I know this is going to get much, much thicker, so I'm not going to add anything else. If you want yours thicker, you can add another teaspoon of the xanthan gum. When you put your lid on to let it simmer, your xanthan gum is going to gum up and thick up at the bottom, so just be careful letting it simmer covered. Keep checking it. And it will continue to simmer and thicken up for you. I did taste it. The spice combination in here is absolutely perfect. I personally like black pepper and everything, so I'll probably add more black pepper. But this is a quick, easy soup you can serve your family. Serve it with breadsticks. If you're doing keto, do some cheddar crisps. And like I said, you can't beat putting some fresh cheddar cheese and melting it on the top of this. It is to die for. So I hope you enjoy it. If you make it, let me know how it goes, whether you do it keto or not. I do eat mine regular fat with the flour and all that good stuff, and maybe we'll try it that way next time. Thanks for hanging out with me today. One last note. Mine's been sitting now for about 15 minutes, and as you can see, it's that beautiful creamy texture, so it's exactly what it's supposed to be when you use the xanthan gum and you're a little patient. I mentioned splitting up the liquid and cream difference. I meant that if you're doing keto. If you're doing traditional with the flour, butter, roux, make sure that you do equal parts liquid. So you want to do equal parts half and half to water. Because we used a different approach, we didn't need as much of the chicken broth. So just wanted to clarify that. Enjoy your dinner tonight.